Good morning and good afternoon to those on the East Coast. My name is Maureen Rosado, and I have the pleasure of hosting the Cyversity Engage and Impact interview series with Dr. Chase Cunningham. I myself am here in Austin. I'm a lead at the Austin Cyversity group here, and I have Bill Alderson also joining me, who is a lead here in Austin. So we got a lot to cover. I hope people will be able to engage and ask great questions, because that's always important. Stop me if there's something I need to repeat or share. And first, before we even start, I want to thank Cyversity for allowing us this time and this platform. I really appreciate it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Cyversity, but I do encourage you to go to cyversity.com and really review all the value you get by becoming a member. Today, we're going to focus on our veteran side of contributions and value. And that is why we're going to be interviewing Dr. Chase Cunningham. But with that said, I'd like to go ahead and have Bill introduce himself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Hi, Maureen. It's so great to work with you here in Austin. We have so many great events, and this is another one that we have to share with the audience, the mission of Cyversity. And I remember it was just about a year ago, we did some mentoring at a big trade show where we sat down and talked with people who might be interested in joining cyversity.org. And it's a really great organization. I've attended a lot of events and kind of supported them for a while now. And you might wonder, well, what am I doing in here for Cyversity? Well, I am a Vietnam era veteran. And so they have a lot of focus on helping veterans. And I just saw a post by Cyversity that said only less than 10% of veterans are involved in the cyber world. And so we're about to encourage more veterans to enter the cybersecurity environment. And so it's a pleasure to be here with you. I look forward to talking with Chase and engaging with y'all and questions and answers as well as we can do.
Awesome, Bill. Thanks so much. So I do have the privilege to introduce Dr. Chase Cunningham. I had to shorten my introduction because he's involved and has that much going on in his life. But the highlights I managed to capture. So he is a veteran, a Navy Chief. He was a Navy Chief Cryptologist for over 20 years. He has had several roles in the CIA, FBI, and NSA, probably his contract work, etc. He's done that. He was a part of Forrester, where I actually was introduced to the Forrester extended framework. That's where I was introduced to his work. So he's a part of that. And I think that's super significant because here we are today still managing and practicing the zero trust framework. So that's, to me, one of the biggest highlights, of course. And he's also authored books. So I went to Amazon and saw, I didn't even realize this, I skipped one. He was an author of comic books. And then he also made a couple of other, I'll let him share those, but the most significant thing I just wanted to share, I think today he'll be dropping his sixth book called Variable, which is a series of books that he started with, the first one being Gabriel. So I've said a lot, but now I want you, Chase, to kind of share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start asking some cool questions.
Yeah, thanks for the intro. I just obviously got a new camera and I did something, so now it's zoomed in on me and I get the thing to zoom out. So I guess my skill set is called into question immediately. But yeah, so I've been.
It looks good, Chase.
Yeah, it's got my giant.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been lucky enough to be blessed and worked at a lot of different orgs and agencies, done work with different sides of the government. I do some work in Taiwan and South America as well. So yeah, I just I keep my hands in every pot I can get them in, and if I think I can help somebody on the cybersecurity or zero trust side, I do that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So there's a lot we could cover, but I wanted to stay focused on the veterans and just the kind of key questions I often get as I share with the members of Cyversity. So I'm going to start with this one. And I think we'll keep it high level, and we can absolutely go a little bit deeper if anyone has more. But I wanted to ask you, how do you respond when someone asks you, Chase, how do I get into cybersecurity? How do I do that? How do you respond as a veteran?
I mean, I think for the veterans, one thing that they should start doing is looking outside the typical channels of like 4-year college degrees in cyber. There's starting to be a lot of like almost cybersecurity trade schools. There's one here in the Northern Virginia area called Cyber Now Labs, where you can go and basically do 20 weeks of kind of cert work. They do SOC training and those things. And then after that, you basically are trained specifically to be a SOC operator, like, L1 type SOC folks. So I think that we see that that's becoming more of a kind of cyber trade school opportunity. Honestly, I think we need more of that. And then the other thing for people is there's a lot of free resources out there. There's, Hack the Box. There's all the stuff from Kali Linux. There's Metasploit Unleashed. There's plenty of things that you can get into. So take advantage of it. And then the last thing is you should be paying attention to this market before you become a veteran. And what I mean by that is when you're starting to line up for transitions 6 months, a year out, start putting the ducks in a row so that you can transition more easily, and start, leaning in where you can get free stuff through the government, through the VA, through the DoD for those certifications and classes. Because unfortunately, when you come out, it does make a difference the more alphabet soup you have on your resume. So get it while you can, especially when it's free.
Alphabet soup. Bill, I know you burning up there. Give me fire away.
Well, first of all, I like to tell people if you are a super technical person, you should aspire to be technical. If you are not as technical, but you want to be in cybersecurity, you should focus on the policy and compliance areas, because there's a huge number of people who are in policy, privacy, compliance. And that doesn't require splitting hairs and looking at packets and looking at firewalls or that sort of thing. It's kind of a little bit different. So, and to give you an idea of which one you might want to pursue, if you were, let's say, 15, 16 years old and you were tearing apart computers or mechanical or electrical or even working on your car or mechanical, that means you're a technical oriented person. If you were more interested in healthcare or maybe athletics and that sort of thing, you might want to focus more on the policy side, because the last thing we want to do is try and make, brain surgeons out of people who are more social, right? We want technology people to focus on technology and be really good at that. And then policy and procedure people to move over into the other area. So there is a place for the technologist, and there's the place for the person who is more managerial and more organized and looking at the various frameworks and that sort of thing. What do you think, Chase? Do you think I'm onto something there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really where we're at, is that there are different sides to this coin. It's okay to be a business person in cyber. It's okay to be a psychology person in cyber. Like, there's plenty of opportunity for everybody to do all kinds of great things here. It's just a matter of where you can sort of find your niche and then work to build that out. Don't be scared of the space either. You don't have to be a hardcore computer scientist to be in cyber anymore. We need more people that are honestly outside the bounds of straight up hardcore cyber.
Interesting that you say that. I remember meeting some young females at a convention, and they were sharing with me, they said, no, I can't really get into cyber because I don't know how to code. I said, what? Where did you hear that? Right?
I hate coding. Yeah. I despise coding.
Yeah. I mean, right? So I hope my comment, and then I would love to hear back from you guys. So you're right, Bill. Figure out what makes you happy, where you can thrive, and match that with a cybersecurity career. Hands down. We're talking about veterans right now, so we can share that. If I'll give you an example, my father was a tanker. So he fixed tanks, right? He was a mechanic. Chase, I've been around you long enough. I know you started your career, I believe, as a mechanic, diesel in mechanic.
Correct. Yep.
Yep, right. So, explore though. Do explore different areas of cyber. There's a vast amount. So please take the time. Let's dispel some of these myths that are out there, and yeah, let's open up that dialogue as to say what really makes you happy. Because if you just like to sit around and put puzzle pieces together, by all means, we got a job for you, right? Simple as that. I want to go a little bit more on a different road. I want to talk about that transitioning from that military job up at 6, PT by 6:30. It's regime, right? It's like, what you're going to do. But when you get out of the military, there's this transition. And I grew up in the military. So I knew when my boss said, you have to be here at 6:30, I was usually there at 5:28. So that, or excuse me, 6:28. So I was there at 6. But share a little bit about that transition, and mentally, how do you prepare yourself properly getting into the cybersecurity world from that perspective?
Bill or me? Who first?
I'm going to start with you, Chase, because
Okay.
your personality type, and I know that I'm just going to start with you because I know you better.
Sure. So, I mean, I think one thing people should take away is if you're transitioning, like the transition period is going to be bumpy. It's going to be uncomfortable. And, I would honestly say be prepared for the sea change that waits for you on the other side of the bridge, because it's a different world. You can't get things done the way that you did in the military. The response type of activity is not going to be what you're used to. If you're like me and you're, somebody says we have a meeting at 5 o'clock, I'm there at 4:15 because I just don't like being late. Expect people to show up at 5:20 because that's kind of how they operate in the civilian world. So you'll have to change I won't say lower your standards, but change your expectations. And then the other thing is really, you're in a space where you're coming from a space where there's a lot of fraternity, there's a lot of brother and sisterhood, there's a lot of collaboration, to a place where it is ultra competitive all the time on every front you can possibly deal with. So know that and be aware of it, and start thinking for yourself a bit. It's kind of a weird thing to tell people to be a little bit selfish, but you should, because that's kind of how things work in the civilian world.
I appreciate that. Bill?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you that I was in the Navy so long ago that I even forgot. Being a Vietnam era veteran, I started in the Navy as an enlisted man in 1974. But it wasn't until later on in my career I got called to the Pentagon at 9/11 to help them solve and recover communications. I then went to Iraq and Afghanistan 6 times with U.S. CENTCOM to help them solve big problems and analyze all biometric systems. So my experience was more recent. My more recent experience was with all those folks that I went to Afghanistan and Iraq with over the years. And as they started retiring from the military, I watched them transition. So one of my good friends, Colonel Dave Wills, was transitioned just a few years ago from U.S. Stratcom, and he went to work for GDIT. And so being at his level, it was a difficult move because he was working at U.S. CENTCOM as a military member, and then he started working as a civilian. So you can transition a lot of times around the command that you were in. And so there's a lot of opportunities because you have that knowledge of what the green suiters were doing before, and you can use that as leverage and knowledge. So when I got out of the military, I went to work for Lockheed Missiles and Space Company in Sunnyvale, California. And I worked on the Trident submarine nuclear missiles. And sometimes I fear that if we ever launch one of those and it goes the wrong way, they're going to go back and look at my signature on the QA form that said it was going to work. And I'll cause a national incident or something. But hopefully we never have to test those things and find that out. But you can find something within your rate or whatever you were doing in the military or what command you were in, and you can usually find a segue into the civilian life in that particular way. And a lot of people are doing that, and actually even go on to have 2 careers and 2 retirements. So it's very fruitful, and you just you kind of need to network a little bit. You got to
Okay.
maintain friends, right? And it's all about community. And of course, at Cyversity, that's what we are all about, is community, creating community, and helping one another and encouraging each other.
Yep. Thanks so much, Bill. Chase, did you want to add to anything on that, or is it okay if I go to the next question?
Well, I think somebody put in a comment there about employers looking to
Oh.
take more people outside of cookie cutter cybersecurity. I agree with you. I wish they would, but you know, the reality of it is, like, the mechanisms are already built and the guide rails are kind of there. So what I would say is, don't be scared to use some of these new. I hate saying AI because every time you say AI, somewhere a puppy dies. But these applied intelligence systems. And
No.
make, modify your resume to match the keywords and the searches that they're doing so that you can beat the system. I think that a lot of people just kind of go, oh crap, no one's picking me because I don't have the resume or the background. It's perfectly okay. And this is where my work with my special forces buddies come back in, is like, it's okay to cheat to win. Do it, because that's how this system works. You've got to beat the system.
Oh, yeah. And I promised myself I'm not going to talk about AI because it's just too broad, and I'm not a specialist. And, I know it's here, and I think you need to, embrace it, of course. But I think we still aren't quite there where people can absolutely say, I am absolutely the aficionado on AI, and it's just too much. But here's the question I have. Why is there such a gap between hiring people and open acquisitions? And of course, it permeates down into the veterans community as well, because they're probably, some are just getting out or been out for the last 5 years. They're putting their resume together and like, why is this not working? So I guess my question to you and Bill and Chase, what's the gap? Is it the money? Are they not wanting? Is it they don't have enough experience? Where do you see the true gap is for hiring, and how do we fix it?
I mean, the biggest one to me is that we have a lot of square peg round hole problem. And there's, these requirements have been set by contracts. They've been set by government. They've been set by leadership in different organizations that don't necessarily understand the nuances that you actually need from an employee to really be good at cyber, if you will. And that's the guide rails that we have to kind of fight. So it's a bit of a kind of dual-edged sword, where they need people and they know they need them, but they're going to continue to write the same requirements that they've written for the last X number of years because it's kind and comfortable and they understand the rails that are around it. But in reality, they need to open that up. So that's why I say to the veterans that are transitioning out, and the people, even if you're not a vet, if you're looking for work in this space, cheat to win. Like, no, most people tell you don't cheat, but I'll tell you
I'm
straight up,
writing
like,
it down. Cheat to win.
I am 100% okay with people cheating to win in this space. So, like, use the networking, meet people, change your resume, modify your cover letter, that type of stuff. You're here. Let me put my chief hat on for a second too. I don't feel bad for anybody now that doesn't cheat to win, because you have the option and you have the resources to do that. If it was 3 years ago, it's really difficult to do. Now I can go into Chat GPT and say, hey, Chat GPT, take my resume and translate it for cybersecurity, and I'm done. So, use those systems, translate them for your benefit, work around it, meet people, network. It's a good place to be. And just, to be perfectly frank, like, even me, like, I'm currently open to work too right now. Folks, not everyone wins all the time. Like, you're going to have things that aren't just going to work out for you. That's just the nature of life.
Of course. The higher you are, the more critical people and expectations of people put on you, right? So that's fair. Bill, cheat to win. Tell me about what your thoughts are around there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Here we go.
So I'll just tell you, I'm 69 years old and I'm still working every day and, trying to solve problems, doing this sort of thing. But I use AI to cheat. And I'm just going to tell you, I know puppies are dying, but I just started using a product called Cursor AI. Cursor is a coding environment that allows you to interact, and it provides almost all of the AI systems as part of their subscription, which is like $20 a month. So you go in and you set yourself up an account, and it's got access to Claude 3.7, which is really great for coding and that sort of thing. I'm not a coder. I'm a packet person, but I'm not a coder. But I am learning to use Cursor to create code. And at Google, over 70% of the code written today is using AI.
Of course.
So I'm telling you that even if you're not a coder, you can begin to do all kinds of coding. I've been setting up NVIDIA's Morpheus with the Cursor system. And so it basically helps you, leads you, guides you every time there's a problem. The beauty of Cursor is that it sees the errors, and then it says, oh, let me help you fix that. And it'll automatically go through 25 iterations of fixing it automatically without you even having to be part of it. Now, the problem is when AI gets in a loop, it gets into a loop and it'll keep trying to fix things forever. But you can use AI to your advantage. And so I use it to learn things. Like I wanted to learn how to do Python. So I'm learning it, and Cursor's great. And it basically brings in all of the different AI models into the Cursor program. It's cheap, it's simple, it's easy, and it's a way to, like Chase says, it's a way to cheat yourself into knowledge. And it's like fake it until you make it. It's like getting in there and trying to do something, and you're not going to not learn. You're going to learn something, even if it is that you don't want to do this and you want to do that. But I encourage people to use AI. In a couple of years, we're all going to be using it, and it'll be more adaptable and there for us in more natural ways. And if you do it now, you're just basically saving yourself on the time curve a lot of time, because we're all going to be using it. And it's all about prompting, right, Chase? It's all about knowing how to ask the question. And that's what wisdom will give you, is knowing how to ask the question.
Absolutely. Chase, do you want to have a comment on any AI tool that you specifically use, that you feel someone could embrace and enhance their potential to get that job, or to bring value to what they're trying to achieve in cybersecurity?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a big fan of the new version of ChatGPT, the 4.5 one. I think it's $200 a month, and most people are like, "Holy crap, $200 a month." However, let me tell you, if you've got an LLC, it's a business expense, so it's a write-off in taxes. So go ahead and jump in there and do it. And even honestly, folks, if you're coming out of the military, transition, or veteran, or whatever, and you don't have an LLC, go set one up. It costs you like $35, $50, and then you're off to the races, and you can claim all this stuff on taxes. So again, I always tell my kids, like, I have 2 PhDs, one in computer science and one in beating the system. And like, use the system against yourself.
Okay, beating the system. Perfect. Yeah, this is great. 2-3 years ago, we didn't have these. No, there were resources around, but we weren't openly talking about them, and they weren't openly available. And now it feels like the floodgates have opened, and there's this massive rush of AI technology. And sometimes people get confused. So I appreciate you sharing the tools that you use. And also, for those out there, I don't have a resource. Bill or Chase, do you have a resource that you could say, hey, go here, and there are several different tools that you can opt to look into? Or would you just say, hey, just do your search on your own or read articles? Just give me maybe just one site that you could say honestly has enough AI tools, I guess, that could get you started.
I think there's a bunch of them out there. Like
Okay.
TechCrunch has got some good resources. There's some good stuff on. I'm a big fan of Reddit, because Reddit's where you find out the real truth. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's good. I appreciate that. So I'm going to move on to And you know, this is your fault, Chase. What not to do. So this is a book, How Not to Lead. And again, Chase wrote this book a couple of years ago. It's been 3 years now.
2, yeah.
2 years. So Bill and then Chase would like to open this question up as, what are some things you do not want to do? You might be tempted to do it. People may tell you, oh, and I got out this way. But just at the highest level, what are some things you do not want to do? Don't waste your time. I'm ready. Bill, you're on mute. You're not on mute.
Okay. No, I'm here. I was just contemplating. I'm kind of like Elon Musk. It takes me a long time to determine what I'm going to say.
We can't even go there right now. You can't say that name right now.
So yeah, don't burn your bridges. Keep all of your options open. And on the topic that you asked a little bit ago about like cursor.ai, believe it or not, it comes with a 10-day free trial, and it gives you access to Chat 4.5, Claude 3.7. And once you buy it, it's only $20 a month, and you get 4.5. But it's only for coding. It's not for all the other things that you do, right? It's not for marketing. It's only for coding, and that's why it's a little bit cheaper in that particular version. And what not to do, send out resumes, of course, but, don't not meet people. Go to your ISSA meetings. Go to your Cyversity meetings, your ISC squared meetings. Go to trade shows. Like today out in California, if I was there, I would be at the NVIDIA GTC conference, because that's a really cool place to be. So if you're near where there are venues of that nature, do that. I went to an InfraGard meeting a few weeks ago. It was a great FBI came out and talked about how they were going to do things in our local Austin market. So, don't just stay at home. Get yourself dressed up, shave, put on some nice clothes, and go out and meet people. Be around them. It's good for your heart. It's good for your mind. It's good for your soul.
Yep. Chase?
I mean, I would say don't wait. Opportunity knocks, motivation kicks the door down. So, I mean, if you're sitting there waiting for things to drop in your lap, it's probably not going to happen the way that you would hope. I see way too many people in the veteran community that kind of sit around thinking like, well, I'm a vet, this will come to me. Like, no, they'll thank you and they'll tell you that they appreciate it. But in reality, when it comes down to it, the almighty dollar governs everything else. So go get it, go do it yourself, figure out the resources that are available, leverage other veterans in your community. I'll jump through a burning building for any veteran that reaches out to me. So just, please ping me or connect with me either way. But yeah, don't wait. Like the clock is ticking, and every tick of the clock is not in your favor.
Excellent. And I have to agree with, of course, both of you. And my thought is to lower the expectations sometimes when you call on someone to mentor you. If you're giving 150%, then the mentor is probably going to give, at least 100%. But if your expectation is, can you get me an interview with the VP at Google? Here's my resume. That doesn't work. It's not like that, So my recommendation always is, like everyone else said, get out there, hustle, network, and then ultimately, if you find someone who can mentor you, make sure you're given as much as they're given, because we all want to help. There's no question around that. The resources are available, but please do not sit down and expect someone to just open the doors for you and people are going to walk in. People have to remember, mentoring is one of those things where we get a lot of calls and a lot of people will reach out and we want to help. But at the same time, we too have, we have goals and we got things to take care of as well, businesses to run. So we will try to, meet you, but do exert some sort of energy. I think that, let me look, that is the last question I have. Do we have some questions out there from the audience? We're right at 11:30. Bill or Chase, do you see any? I don't. Bill?
I think we're caught up. Like, this is efficiency at its finest.
Well, I have a question for Chase. Tell us about your cryptology and that sort of thing and how that relates to what you're doing today?
Yeah. So without getting into the stuff I can't talk about, I mean, the cryptographic side of it that I got into was we started out doing, basic code analysis and then code breaking, all the stuff all the way back from like the Enigma machine and World War II stuff up to current modern cryptographic algorithms and moving forward from there. And then it was cool because I got to go to a bunch of advanced schools in Pensacola, Florida, which who doesn't like to be stationed in Pensacola?
Come on now.
And yeah, right. And then do the work there on Quarry Station. So the cryptographic side was great for me, but interestingly enough, I was in advanced signals for a while, and then I kind of just had an affinity for the cyber networky side of things. So I was really lucky that I got to kind of bridge the gap between cryptology and straight up computer science. But the good thing is when somebody starts talking algorithms, I can keep up with them.
Yeah, the thing about encryption and that sort of thing is that a friend of mine, Radia Perlman, who wrote the book called Network Security, and her latest third edition talks about the post COVID, post quantum encryption, and that it's a real thing. And now we have to worry about that a little bit because it could happen in the next 10 years or so that we have a quantum computer that can break the encryption. So that's kind of an interesting thing that you've been involved there. And I'm sure that that's, near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, well, when I was watching that Netflix show, the 0 Days, and they were talking about the algorithm that they had used on the stuff, when they started describing it, I started laughing out loud. My wife was like, "Why is that funny?" I was going, "That was the stuff we learned like day one in crypto school." But in the TV show, it's a cryptographic algorithm. I was like, I could break that with a piece of graph paper and an index card. Oh, you're muted, Maureen.
I had a question for you and Bill as well. People ask me this all the time. How do I get into cybersecurity? How do I feel about AI? Should I learn more about AI? How's AI going to impact us? And I really don't have a proper answer. So I generally answer with, if you find a lot of value in AI and it's making you extremely productive and you can't, foresee not living without it, then I think the adversaries who are using AI feel the same way. So how do you answer it? Is it going to make us, is AI going to make us better, stronger, faster in cybersecurity? Or is it a matter of, are we still just going to be keeping up?
I mean, my opinion is in cyber specifically, I think it's going to help us alleviate some of the kind of bottlenecks we have in different spaces. I don't know that it's going to be the massive game changer in cyber that we're kind of hoping it is, because like you say, we don't own the patent on AI, right? The bad guys could use it just like we can. I think I saw a stat recently that said that phishing is up by 4,000% since ChatGPT came online. So there's that. Really, I think from the perspective of leveraging AI, I think a lot of industries are going to be disrupted in the very near future. So, for some of the folks that may be transitioning out into different career fields, I would caution you to be very smart about what you're looking to get into and whether or not that career field is going to be impacted by artificial intelligence in the near future. Because it's happening, and there are some industries that are going to be almost flipped on their head.
Bill?
Yeah, like I said, I'm a big proponent. I have a good friend of mine that's 83 years old, and he and I had breakfast a couple of weeks ago, and I put Chat GPT on his phone, and he's a writer and an author and an artist, and he just has totally embraced it because it's so easy to do. And in the cyber world, for instance, I'm a packet guy, right? I use Wireshark and that sort of thing. Matter of fact, right over here is one of the first sniffers that ever came out back in the day. Well, it used to be that you had to learn all these cryptic commands. And then we went to Cisco, brought all these routers out. We had to learn all the command lines. You had to memorize all this stuff. No more. You can use these powerful tools very easily by just saying to chat, hey, I need to filter TCP port 1025 from, this firewall. Can you build me the filter, the access control list? And boom, AI will do that for you. So the type of information that you need to be aware of is what you want to be able to do, how to build a firewall with rule set, how to do a filter on a sniffer or something of that nature. And you can now talk to AI and it will give you the code in a little box. You copy it and just paste it into a Wireshark and it'll do a filter for you. And so it used to be you had to memorize all those things, go through the command lines. No more, because now we have this, this AI has essentially got master's degree in Cisco and Fortinet and Checkpoint and Palo Alto, and all you have to do is ask it a question that's relevant and get more and more detailed, and it will give you actually the configurations and a lot of the different things that it used to take. You just had to spend an inordinate amount of time learning all this minutia before you could actually be productive. And so the AI environment now allows you to be very productive very rapidly, and it's an equalizer, right? It's an equalizer. The old guy like me who knows all those old things but now forgot them, right? And that's why I use it, because it helps me remember all those different commands and that sort of thing. So use the AI systems and it'll teach you itself. So if an 83-year-old can start writing his life's memoirs because I installed ChatGPT on his phone, any of us can learn almost anything that we want to learn: marketing, sales, cybersecurity, packet sniffing, Morpheus, NVIDIA stuff. All that stuff is available to us. And it's just super cool. I'm so glad that I'm still alive and able to experience it.
The lighting. I think the clouds just went down and they agreed. The sun just went down. Oh, there's back. Okay. I did have a question. So this brings me to this question. What do you think the future is going to look like? And I'll start by saying my goal has always been, I am a zero trust strategist. I believe in it. I've practiced it. I've helped very large companies get started with it. I am hands down a component of that. I believe it needs to happen. We need a foundation. My goal is always, it would be awesome to flip a switch and have that entire zero trust extended framework just be activated. So I've always been watching major platform companies like CrowdStrike and Palo and Zscaler. I've worked with all of them, hoping that they piece this together, and it still hasn't happened. So my thought was, I'm just sharing with you, my future goal would be to see that happen, that you flip that switch and all those components are there and working for you. So then you can use AI to add on top, right? And to build from there. So that's kind of what I vision, would love to see happen. How about for you, Dr. Zero Trust? Just kidding.
Yeah,
I know we think the same, you invented it, but I just wanted to know, seriously, what do you think is something we could look forward to?
I mean, I think we're going to get to a stage where a lot more interoperability is a very real thing, where you're able to run stuff at a scale that's going to be more beneficial. David was asking earlier about, is consulting and that type of thing a good thing for vets to get into? If I was a veteran getting ready to transition out right now, I would be setting up my own MSSP and working with the folks that had these types of solutions and beginning to sell those services, because MSP and MSSP stuff is going to go through the roof in the very near future, especially for small and mid-sized businesses. The overhead is minimal. You can get this stuff started in your home. Like, it's a pretty good business model. So, maybe consider that. But on the ZT side, if I step back for a second, I also have to look at the kind of, reality of the market that we're in. And I think a lot of big cybers, a lot of like big pharma, they're not incentivized to actually cure the problem, because then they would cut their own throats. So, the reality of the issue is they're not going to solve this problem all the way down at the functional level, because they would be shooting the golden goose in the face. So, I mean, that just is what it is. Now, on top of that, bad guys never stop innovating. New technologies are breakable, et cetera. Like, the story goes on and on. But just to be perfectly frank, I mean, Wiz just got acquired for $30 billion inside of Google.
Saw that this morning.
We'll see how that plays out. But, there's been so much money spent in this space, and we're still having people that, click phishing links and use crappy passwords. I think we've got a long ways to go.
I'm only laughing because every time I attend a major event or whatever it might be, I always think these are great products, and I applaud you for sharing this with us and blah, blah. I said, but if Norma from HR gets a phishing link and clicks on it because she thinks she just won a new iPhone, it didn't matter, because now you got to deal with that, right? So I think the human element of cybersecurity there's a long way to go. We need to focus on that. There's a lot I can share about that, but I appreciate you saying that. And I just hope people will understand that the basics, you got to have the basics. You can't have Norma clicking on those phishing emails, even though it looks like an Amazon framework and it feels like it, and they say the same questions. I know it's going to be a proper, email, and then all of a sudden, the lights are ringing. So Bill, what are your thoughts there?
Okay, so you segued into my area of focus. There's a product called Morpheus, which is open source by NVIDIA, and that product looks at packets and other such things, and it's basically like you could have Chase and me, watching one user at a time, and we could probably stop some of this, right? If we had Chase and I sitting next to each user, and with our packet analyzers and our tools, we could stop it, right? Here's the thing, AI like Morpheus can look at billions of packets in real time, see and identify through AI, see what's happening, the email that came through, the click that went back out, and the exfiltration that goes out, and it can stop it in sub-second. Now, that is the promise of AI, and I believe that that's where we're going to actually be able to say, hey, we're going to be able to win. And
Okay.
by the way, just to tell everybody out there, if you're ever talking to me and you start saying, well, we'll never be able to win, it's like and we're all military people, and imagine yourself on D-Day on the boat going to Normandy, and you're a young Marine about to sacrifice your life, and the guy next to you says, we can never win. I'm going to throw him overboard. I'm sorry. If you don't believe, if you're going to be in cybersecurity, you better doggone believe that eventually we're going to be able to win. We're going to be able to stop them. It's going to be able to happen. Now, I understand there's a lot of things that are into that statement, but if you don't believe that we can win, you shouldn't be in the battle. Don't collect a paycheck for cybersecurity if you don't believe that we can ultimately win the battle against the bad guys. Because, like I said, it's like being on that boat, going in to sacrifice your life, and the guy next to you says, I don't think we can ever beat Hitler. I'm going to throw him overboard because he's going to get me killed. And that's the same way I feel about cybersecurity. If you are in cybersecurity, by God, you better believe that you can be a material helper or an assistance to fixing the problem and preventing all of this cyber crime from occurring. Anyway, that's how I feel about it. And I get in arguments with people once in a while. And I'm old enough to have fewer filters, right? So people kind of give me a little grace, but that's kind of the way I feel about it. I think we can win, and I believe that if we're in that battle, we should believe that we can win.
I think I agree with you. It's really a passion of mine. It's never really been about the money. Unfortunately, money is important, because when I speak to the businesses how I can bring value, I have to be ready to share that. So it always, at the end of the day, is about money. Are there any questions out there? I don't see any that have come through, but I put a little thing in the notes section. Does anyone have any questions for me or Bill? Or,
well, Matthew asked about either new technology or social engineering tactics. So Chase is probably better to answer that question about social engineering than I am.
I mean, I think that, for the record, and I've said this a million times on record, like, I don't think we should not train our people. We should train them just like we train people in the military to do the basic stuff. However, technology is better at detecting the things that would be used in a social engineering campaign than humans will ever be. So we should be using those systems to basically mitigate that risk. It's kind of like, yeah, I could probably slam the brakes on my car if I'm going 70 miles down the road, or 70 miles an hour down the road and not getting a wreck. However, it sure would be awesome if there was a seat belt and an airbag so that if I missed, I happen to be saved because of the technical control. So, the foreseeable future looks like we'll continue to have people that are just goobers that do goober things because that's what people are. And we're going to continue to have bad guys that do bad guy things because it's a lot of money and there's a reason for it to go there. Why shouldn't we leverage more tech than more soft sort of resources when it actually makes a difference? That's the thing that just befuddles me, is people will wonder about, well, why can't everybody in my business needs a Dell Pentium 7 processor and whatever else. Nah, they don't. Put them on Chromebooks and remove an operating system and watch ransomware no longer be a problem. Like, this stuff ain't rocket surgery.
Excellent. Any other questions that you guys see? I didn't even see that question come through. Okay.
Scroll down, Maureen. They're down there. Yeah, Matthew has several questions. The other thing is he wants to know about security education. I know Matthew, and he's involved in the local community college, and he has a group of about 100 other students who are very much on the quest to solve these problems. And he's asking us about, security education for the non-technical person, right? Because we've got all these people who are healthcare, finance, other areas, and we're trying to make them cyber people. And also sometimes companies have a bad idea of putting warnings in their personnel files if they clicked on the wrong thing. It's like, look, we're going to make mistakes. The technology should be there. Like I said, Morpheus looking at every packet, billions of packets, and looking for that sort of stuff in real time. And we've only just begun in that area. So I think that's very promising, but I don't think we should castigate non-technical users for their, they clicked on something. It's like, oh, well, the technology people and the technology companies should stand up and say, yeah, we failed. We should have found that, instead of trying to blame and castigate non-technical end users, because I think that's a losing game. And if anybody ever gets fired for a cyber mistake, call me up. I'll be an expert witness to prove that their CIO and their CISO was the one who was at fault, who did not have the proper technology, not the person who accidentally clicked on the wrong thing. We need to stop blaming end users and start taking the responsibility. We got wide shoulders. Take the responsibility, the bull by the horns, and we're going to help solve the problem with technology and good application of technology, and stop castigating end users.
Excellent. I 100% agree. I did find the questions. Hi, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining and having the great questions. And I see David Elcott. Chase, will humans ever catch up? How can they catch up and remain viable? Viable. That sounds kind of familiar to me. Please do remind people that Viable is available now. And I don't know if you mentioned this, sorry, but I know some of the proceeds go to the veterans. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, you're talking about my books. Yeah, I donate proceeds from my books to veterans charities in the DFW area. So yeah, if you buy any of my books at the end of the year, when that stuff comes back and I close it out, I give that money to veterans charities. So, but yeah,
Chase, I'm a veteran.
Oh, okay, Bill.
I'm teasing.
Okay. Well, well, that's great, Bill. That's
I mean,
why you're here.
right. So, I mean, for David's question, I think to me, the question really is like, what's your definition of catch up? Because I think that the issue that we really face is we're trying to keep up with things that we can't keep up with, rather than leveraging those things to make ourselves operate at a level that is way beyond our current capacity, and then go forward and grow from there. I think that the real smart play in the future is to basically look at where AI-ish systems are going to effectively negate the need for all the human capital they currently have, and then figure out if you can play in that space at that scale, or figure out if there's maybe a tangential offering you can tie in there that would be beneficial for the people that use those goods and services. If you're in auditing in the very near future, you're probably going to be in a bad space, to be perfectly frank. If you're a middle school teacher, you're probably in a bad space. If you're a fighter pilot, you're probably in a space that's going to become more limited over time. So medical providers at the GP level, they're also going to wind up being less, I won't say valuable, but less used in the very near future too. So like there's plenty of markets where this is going to be a sea change, and it's just more of a, where could I do things quicker, better, faster by leveraging this system than by trying to fight it and realize that it's coming whether you like it or not. Like, this is glacial in nature. You can stand in front of it all day long and scream, but sooner or later it moves down the mountain.
Excellent. We are right now at 11:51, which is perfect. Last call for any questions for our panelists. And that would be number one. Anything you want to share before we close out, Bill and Chase?
I appreciate the invite. Like I said, I mean it with all seriousness. If I can help with somebody with something, please reach out to me directly online. I'm glad to either point you towards a resource or connect you with somebody or anything else. If you're going to be at RSA, which, like Bill was talking about, it's a great event to go network and meet people. Be glad to shake hands and say hi, and then help our brother and sister veterans out everywhere you possibly can, because they need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bill?
Yeah. Every time I go to one of those conferences, I go out on my LinkedIn and I say, hey, I'm going to be at this conference like RSA. And then I put on one of my famous hats and I say, I'm going to be wearing this hat, and stop me and say hi. And it's like, that's a good way of just letting everybody know in your community that you're going to this conference. Be friendly, get people involved. I know we have a conference with Cyversity here in a couple of weeks here in Austin, the Initech conference, where we're doing some events.
Yep.
And I'll be at that, and people can pull you aside and talk to you, and just post and let people know where you're going to be, and wear a funny hat or wear a pink falcon or something of that nature on your lapel, and people will then know that you're there, and invite them to say hello to you. It does work. It really does work. People will say hello.
Yep. And I just want to finalize this by saying, be kind to each other, because we're all just everyone's going through a lot. So let's try to be kind to each other. Let's try to compliment each other or share good things when we're having conversations. We're forgetting to do that. And be a part of a community. Let's build that back together. COVID really hurt a lot of people. It wrecked a lot of communities or social events. Let's focus on those communities again, contribute to the communities again, start a community. That's always fun. Just let's work together, and particularly in cybersecurity, because we are dealing with a lot of adversaries out there from all walks of life. And by uniting and really focusing on community efforts and sharing, there's a great chance we're going to win this. Okay, Bill, we're going to win. No throwing anyone off the boat, Bill. All right. With that, I think my technical person is going to go ahead and close out this session. I'm going to see if I just let her in. But anyway,
It looks like we are still here, Chase. Man, it was really good meeting you kind of virtually in person here. So I really enjoyed chatting with you. We've been connected for years, but not sure that we've ever had a chance to collaborate like this, and it's really great to know that you're a fellow veteran, and thanks for joining in. I know that everybody's been working really hard, to David and Maureen, to put this show on. So thanks so much for being here with us. We really are blessed by your participation, Chase.
I appreciate it. You guys are great. And like I say, if I can help with anything, please let me know. And it was awesome having a chat with y'all today. So hopefully I'll see you out there at San Francisco in April-ish, May-ish timeframe.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, I don't know where our virtual person who signs us off is, but I'm happy